Well, Texas got exactly what the forecasters promised, and then some. Yesterday's brutal weather system tore through the state like it had a personal grudge, bringing with it punishing winds, golf ball-sized hail, and a squall line that ripped right through north and central Texas. At its worst, wind gusts were screaming past 75 miles per hour near Abilene. That's strong enough to flip trucks and tear roofs clean off, before settling into a still destructive 60 to 70 mph range as the whole mess barreled down toward Corpus Christi and Houston. This morning, thousands of homes and businesses across the state are sitting in the dark. If you're one of the people waking up to that mess right now, please be careful out there. Give downed power lines a very wide berth. Assume every one of them is live and deadly. And whatever you do, don't walk into floodwater, even if it looks like it's only ankle deep. Floodwater hides all kinds of dangers: sharp debris, open manholes, and currents strong enough to knock a grown adult off their feet. The cleanup is going to take days, maybe longer in some spots. But here's the hard truth about nature. It doesn't care about your cleanup schedule. The atmosphere is already loading up the next round, and what's coming over the next 7 days is genuinely one of the most complicated and consequential strings of weather events we've seen so far this spring. In fact, it might be the most significant weather week of all of May 2026. And what makes it especially wild is that there are two completely opposite stories unfolding at the same time, almost like the country has been split in two by the weather gods. On one side, a jaw-dropping, record-smashing heat dome has planted itself over the western United States, pushing temperatures toward levels that haven't been seen before in some of the naturally hottest corners of the planet. On the other side, a parade of storm systems is lining up across the Midwest and Central Plains, ready to unleash more severe weather and drenching rainfall over the coming week. And pulling the strings behind all of it is El Niño, which has now officially been forecast to be one of the most powerful on record, cranking every weather extreme up a notch or two. This isn't just a bad weather week. This is a weather week with consequences that will ripple for months. Let's break it all down, day by day. Starting with Monday, May 11th, today, most of the central and eastern United States is actually catching a bit of a breather. Think of it as the calm in the middle of a very long, very loud storm. The cold front that came with yesterday's Texas chaos has slid southward and is no longer the main player. Up in southern Manitoba, Canada, a fresh system is quietly spinning up, throwing some irritating rain showers and a few rumbles of thunder across the northern plains. It's nothing dramatic on the storm scale, but the wind? That's another story. Southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, and Nebraska are all in for a very blustery Monday, with gusts topping 40 mph in places. That might not sound like much, but combine those winds with dry grass and vegetation, and you've got a serious fire weather situation on your hands. If you're in one of those areas and you were thinking about burning anything outdoors today, just don't. Seriously, this is not the day for it. For the Midwest and Central US, Monday is largely quiet. And I want you to really appreciate that quiet, because it matters more than you might think. Farmers across Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Illinois, and Missouri have been waiting and waiting through what has felt like an endless cold, soggy spring for a window to get their corn and soybeans into the ground. That window is open right now. It's not going to stay open forever. By the third week of May, the next major active weather period kicks in, and after that, the planting schedule gets squeezed hard. If you've got seed to put in the ground, this week's dry stretch in the middle of the calendar is your moment. Use every hour of it. Now Tuesday, May 12th. That's today for most of you reading this. And the breather starts to end. A cold frontal boundary is dropping down through the Midwest, and with it comes the return of severe weather potential. The cities I'm keeping a close eye on are Des Moines, Milwaukee, Rockford, and Chicago. The threat is mainly a wind and hail situation. damaging straight-line gusts and large hailstones with any storm cells that fire up along the front during the afternoon hours. I want to be clear, the tornado risk on Tuesday is very low. This isn't the kind of atmospheric setup that tends to spin up rotating supercells, so we're not looking at a classic tornado outbreak scenario. But don't let that lull you into complacency. Straight-line wind damage can be just as destructive as a weak tornado, and hail can shred a car or a garden in minutes. If you've got outdoor plans Tuesday evening in Chicago, Milwaukee, or anywhere across the upper Midwest, keep one eye on the sky and have a backup plan ready. Wednesday, May 13th, the storm train keeps rolling east. The front pushes through and the action shifts toward the Appalachians, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast. West Virginia through the Baltimore and Philadelphia corridor could see a couple of stronger storm cells rolling through. The threat level here is on the lower end. We're mainly talking gusty winds and the odd hailstone. But this is a region that has been caught off guard more than once this spring by weather that looked modest on paper and then over-delivered. Keep your Weather Radar app within easy reach Wednesday afternoon. It takes 2 seconds to check, and it could save you from being stuck outside in an storm. Thursday through the weekend is where things get genuinely interesting again, and where I want to slow down and give you the full picture. A more substantial storm system is taking shape for the back end of the week, due to roll in around Friday, May 15th, and carry on into Saturday, May 16th. On paper, this system has the ingredients for widespread severe weather across the Midwest and Central Plains. But there's a catch, and it's an important one. There's something called a cap in the atmosphere. Think of it like a lid on a pot. When the cap is strong, it keeps storm energy bottled up beneath it, suppressing thunderstorm development even when there's plenty of heat and moisture trying to push upward. The cap has been a recurring headache for forecasters all spring long, and it could interfere with this Friday-Saturday system too. If the cap holds firm, the outbreak gets limited. If it breaks, things could get very active very quickly. At this point, the models aren't giving us enough clarity to make confident specific forecasts for those 2 days. What I can tell you with confidence is that if you live anywhere from the Eastern Plains through the Midwest and Great Lakes, this is a weekend to watch closely. I'll have a much sharper and more detailed picture by Wednesday once the high-resolution models get this system in their sights. Right on the heels of the Friday-Saturday system, another one is queuing up right behind it, expected to arrive around Monday, May 18th. And that second system isn't just another storm. It's the opening act for what multiple computer models have been flagging for over a week now as a major, potentially historic active weather period during the third week of May. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about the West, because what is unfolding out there right now is not a weather story. It's a public health emergency. The ridge of high pressure that has been building over the western U.S. for the past several days has now reached full brutal intensity. This isn't just a heat wave. This is a heat dome, a massive, stubborn dome of high pressure that traps hot air underneath it like an oven with the door sealed shut. Death Valley, which sits in the Mojave Desert and holds the record for the highest reliably recorded air temperature ever measured anywhere on Earth, hit 109 degrees on Sunday. And according to the National Weather Service, that was just the warm-up. Projections show Death Valley potentially approaching 117 degrees this week. 117 degrees. In the second week of May, let that number sit with you for a moment. That would rank among the highest temperatures ever recorded at that location in the month of May, at one of the hottest places on the entire planet. It's the kind of number that doesn't feel real until you're standing in it. Phoenix is looking at highs of 110 to 112 degrees through the middle of the week. Las Vegas is pushing toward 107 to 110. Tucson, Palm Springs, and the entire California Central Valley from Sacramento down through Fresno and Bakersfield are all bracing for prolonged, record-breaking, punishing heat. The National Weather Service has projected around 22 individual temperature records falling on Monday alone. By the time Tuesday and Wednesday roll through, that number is expected to climb toward 100 broken records over just 3 days. 100 records in 3 days. That's not a heat wave anymore. That's a generational event, the kind people will be talking about for decades. I need to go through the heat safety rules clearly, because this week they aren't just good advice. They're life or death important for millions of people across the western and southern United States. Drink water before you feel thirsty. This one is so important and so often ignored. By the time your body sends you the thirst signal, dehydration has already set in. Sip water consistently throughout the day, especially if you're spending any time outside or working in warm conditions. Don't wait until you're parched. Find out right now where your nearest cooling center is located. Don't wait until you're already overheating to look it up. Your city or county emergency management website will have a list. Most libraries, community centers, and shopping malls also serve as informal cooling refuges. Know where yours is before you need it. Check on your elderly neighbors, family members, and anyone around you who might not have reliable air conditioning at least once a day this week. A quick phone call or a knock on the door takes 2 minutes and could genuinely save someone's life. Older adults and young children are especially vulnerable to heat illness, and many won't ask for help even when they desperately need it. Never, and I mean never, leave children, pets, or elderly people inside a parked car. On a 110-degree day, the interior of a parked vehicle can reach 150 degrees within just a few minutes. A few minutes. It doesn't take long, and cracking a window does almost nothing to help. Limit any strenuous outdoor activity to before 9 a.m. or after 7 p.m. for those who have no choice but to work outside in the heat. Construction workers, landscapers, agricultural workers, and others who deserve a lot of credit for the work they do in brutal conditions. Drink water continuously. Take shade breaks every 15 to 20 minutes. And make sure you're working alongside someone who knows what heat illness looks like. Know the difference between heat exhaustion and heat stroke, because they require very different responses. Heat exhaustion looks like cool, pale, and clammy skin, heavy sweating, a rapid but weak pulse, dizziness, and nausea. It's serious, but moving the person to a cool place and getting fluids into them usually helps. Heat stroke is a whole different beast. Hot, dry, red skin, a fast and strong pulse, confusion, slurred speech, or loss of consciousness. Heat stroke is a full-blown medical emergency. Call 911 immediately and do whatever you can to cool the person down while you wait for help to arrive. Do not wait to see if they come around. Act immediately. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture for the rest of May and into June, because this is where the El Niño story really starts to show its hand in a way that's going to affect where you live, no matter which part of the country you call home. The massive heat ridge currently sitting on the western U.S. is expected to begin drifting eastward as we head through the middle of the month. By Friday, May 15th, that warmth will be spreading into the Central Plains, Wichita, Kansas City, Omaha, and the Nebraska Panhandle, all joining the Record Heat Club. Through the following week, from around May 18th to the 26th, the ridge keeps tracking east into the plains and eventually the Midwest. Temperatures that have been running stubbornly below normal for weeks across the Corn Belt and the Ohio Valley are going to make a dramatic turn. The 70s and 80s, temperatures that honestly feel long overdue, will finally return to Des Moines, Chicago, Indianapolis, Columbus, and eventually work their way into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. But here's the thing, and this is really important to understand. Warmer does not mean calmer. When a heat dome slides eastward into the plains, it doesn't just bring sunshine and pleasant afternoons. It delivers the warm, unstable air mass that fuels severe thunderstorm development. Think of it like pouring fuel on a fire. The jet stream, powered and energized by the historically strong El Niño building in the Pacific, keeps funneling storm systems eastward across the southern tier of the country. When those incoming systems from the west slam into the warm, moisture-loaded air mass sitting over the plains and Midwest, the ingredients for dangerous severe weather are all lined up and ready. The third week of May, roughly May 18th through the 22nd or 23rd, is being flagged by multiple independent weather modeling systems as a major, potentially historic active weather period for the central United States. We're talking severe storms, heavy rainfall, and serious flooding threats across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, and potentially the upper Midwest. The projected moisture levels in the atmosphere during that period are genuinely extraordinary, somewhere between 200 and 300% of normal. That means the air over the central U.S. will essentially be saturated, like a massive atmospheric sponge that's completely soaked through and just waiting to wring itself out. When conditions like that combine with strong jet stream forcing, rainfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour become realistic. Total rainfall accumulations of 4 to 8 inches over 4 to 5 days across the central U.S. are not out of the question. Flash flood watches across Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and eventually the upper Midwest are likely to become a near-daily fixture of the forecast during that stretch. Keep in mind that this is the same region that's been getting soaked all month with rainfall that, while welcome at first after a prolonged drought, is now rapidly accumulating into something much harder to manage. The ground in many of these areas is already saturated. More heavy rain on top of saturated soil doesn't soak in. It runs off, and fast. By the time the third week of May is done, some locations across the central U.S. could be looking at rainfall totals that approach historic levels for the month. Looking ahead to June, the overall pattern continues shifting toward what meteorologists call the classic El Niño signature. Warm air parked over the Rockies and plains. Near normal to slightly cooler than normal temperatures hanging over the Great Lakes and Northeast. A busy, active storm track across the eastern half of the country, with repeated weather systems rolling through. And then there's the flip side of all this. The part that doesn't get talked about as much but is just as important. The Pacific Northwest is heading into a serious drought, while the South and East are getting drenched. The Pacific Northwest is stuck under a persistent high-pressure ridge that's been keeping things dry for weeks now. Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and western Montana are all heading into what looks like another dry, potentially brutal summer. As we push into late May and June, fire weather conditions are going to become an increasingly pressing concern across that region. If you live in the Pacific Northwest and you haven't started thinking about wildfire preparedness, now is the time to start. Clear defensible space around your home, know your evacuation routes, and stay tuned to local fire weather forecasts. The El Niño that is developing in the Pacific has now been officially forecast by the Climate Prediction Center to be one of the strongest on record, with peak intensity expected between October 2026 and January 2027. Ocean surface temperatures in the key monitoring region have been rising at a pace that rivals the infamous 1997 El Niño event, the most powerful of the 20th century, which caused catastrophic flooding, droughts, and weather disruptions across the globe. Every single pattern we're watching unfold right now. The hyperactive southern storm track, the beneficial but increasingly excessive rainfall across drought-stricken parts of the South, the blazing heat building across the West, the stubborn cool air parked over the Northeast. All of it is a direct expression of that building atmospheric shift. And it's not done building. It's going to keep intensifying and keep reshaping weather patterns. across every corner of this country through the rest of 2026 and deep into 2027. Buckle up. This is going to be a long ride. Here's your complete action list for the week ahead. Nice and clear. Monday. The northern plains are dealing with dangerous fire weather conditions thanks to strong winds gusting over 40 mph. If you're in that zone, stay alert. Everywhere else, it's relatively quiet. And if you're a farmer in the Corn Belt, treat this dry window like gold and get your seeds in the ground. Tuesday, a cold front sweeps through the Midwest, bringing wind and hail risk to Des Moines, Milwaukee, Rockford, and Chicago. The main threat window is the afternoon and into the early evening. Low tornado risk, but damaging winds and hail are very real possibilities. Wednesday, storm activity marches east into the Appalachians and Mid-Atlantic. Keep your radar app handy if you're in West Virginia, Maryland, or the Philadelphia area. Nothing extreme, but enough to warrant paying attention. Thursday through Saturday. Watch the Friday. Saturday storm system very closely. Details will sharpen significantly by Wednesday. The Midwest and Central Plains are in the zone of concern, and confidence is growing that this one could deliver. Monday, May 18th. This is the big one on the horizon. A major active weather period begins for the central U.S. with severe storms, heavy rainfall, and flooding threats covering Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, and the upper Midwest. Mark it on your calendar. Western U.S. The heat emergency continues through midweek. Phoenix near 110 to 112 degrees. Death Valley threatening 117. Potentially 100 or more records broken across the region. Heat safety this week is not optional. It is literally a matter of life and death. Northern Tier gardeners, cover your plants through Tuesday night. Frost risk is still lingering in some areas for a few more days, which feels almost surreal given what's happening in the West at the same time. Pacific Northwest, start watching for worsening drought conditions as we move toward late May and into June. Fire season could come early and hit hard this year. As always, drop your city in the comments and let me know what the weather looks like where you are right now. I want to hear from the folks dealing with storm damage in Texas, from those watching the heat build in the desert Southwest, and from the farmers out there racing to take advantage of this week's planting window. You're all part of this story. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell so you don't miss tomorrow's update. I'll be back with sharper Tuesday storm details and a much clearer look at that Friday-Saturday system. Stay safe, stay smart, and one more warm, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. You deserve a lot more than a weather update, but here we are.